right, good morning, everyone. Wow, I can hear myself. Goodness. All right, welcome to the November 21st County Board meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest this morning? All right, hearing none. Review and approve the previous board meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Review and approve the county board agenda. Are there any changes?
There are, Chair. We need to add the agreement between the state of Minnesota and Goodhue County for state project number 2510-55, and you should all have a copy of that in front of you. And also, we need to remove the Human Resources Manager's report, as that is all items for the HHS board.
Move approval as amended. Anderson.
Second, Betcher.
All right. Been moved and seconded to alter the agenda. Is that going to become number, the new one is number?
Public Works
something?
Director, too. No, it's the attachment for one, sorry.
All right.
Just an attachment, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Review and approve the following items on the consent agenda. We have all had an opportunity to look those over. Any comments on those?
Move approval as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Regular agenda, Land Use Management Director's Report. Lisa.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, the first item is actually for the whole county, not just for land use. It's our annual yearly review of the fees. So we've got everything that's changed from this current year in red. So you'll see some things are crossed off because they're no longer necessary. You'll see some things that were added that have not been on there, and specifically some of the Richard Samuelson Pavilion in the Public Works area. What's that?
Pull that down closer to you.
Oh. Some changes in land use management. We've upped our fees for conditional use variance and an appeal by $50. We are about average compared to our region on those costs. And clearly, like planning commission stuff, we don't cover our meeting costs. And then we have, I think, some new fees or changes of the fees in the sheriff's office. And I think those were the major fees that you have before you. And this is a public hearing, so there are other department heads here that have some changes. And so if you have questions about their fees, they're here.
Do you have anything to add? All right. So we open the public hearing, correct?
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to open the public hearing on the fee schedule. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we now are open to public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this issue? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this issue? And we have people online too, correct? That we're monitoring? All right, third and final time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this issue?
Move to close public comment.
Second.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Oh, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. We vote on the fee schedule? Yes. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the fee schedule as presented?
I'll move approval. Gressett.
Second, Anderson.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proposed fee schedule. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Sam?
Thank you. The next item on the agenda under Land Use Management Director's Report is to consider a preliminary and final plat for David Olson as the estate representative. RAP Land Surveying has prepared a preliminary and final plat to reconfigure 4 existing parcels in 2 different sections of Holden Township. It should be noted that proposed Lot 4 is considered buildable under county zoning rules. However, Holden Township has indicated that that property would not be buildable under township rules, and the applicant is aware of that restriction. The plat meets all other county subdivision ordinance requirements for access and parcel size. The Planning Commission considered this request at their November 13th meeting and has recommended that the County Board of Commissioners adopt staff report into the record, accept application, testimony, exhibits, and other evidence presented into the record, and approve the request for the preliminary and final plat of the proposed Olson addition in Holden Township.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? This isn't a plan. Public hearing. All right, do we have a motion from the board?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the Olson addition as submitted. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion passes.
I just have one question on the report. I think on the final vote, I don't think it was a 7-0 to close the public hearing, and then they had a vote, but it doesn't say what the vote,
That's
if it was 7-0 on the final vote.
Oh, apologies, it was.
It said recommend the County Board of Commissioners approve the request, but it didn't say what the vote was.
Oh, sorry for that. It was 7-0.
Okay, I kind of figured that, but I just probably, before you approve those minutes, you should put that in there.
Three, Billsby plat update.
Okay, this item is just to kind of bring you up to speed on where we are at with this plat. If you recall, last year we recorded a similar plat that had, I believe, 9 or 10 lots in it. That was approved. This one, we're stumbling a little bit. We've got more people involved in this, and 15 people. 10 of them, they either had no mortgage or they've got their mortgage, they've got a consent to plat from their mortgage company to do the plat. There's 5 of them that we're still waiting on. After I sent a copy of the letter that you see in there to them, I did hear back from a number of them. One person, and I told them that the board would be talking about our options today and to email me back with their comments. And so 3 of them are opting for number 1, to postpone it until the recording until May 15th of next year. One of them doesn't want to do that, or to exclude the people that didn't have their banks together, exclude them from the plat. And one of them pretty much doesn't have any interest in putting time into trying to get his bank to do this. So I think regardless, at some point, we'll have to redraw that plat. The landowners are the ones that are paying for it. But with the timing, at the end of the year, so when you do a split or a plat, you have to pay the full year's taxes before it can get recorded. So that's why it's kind of important to get these last 2 months of the year extremely busy in our survey office, because everybody's all of a sudden filing plats and splits. So since early last year, again in July when we met them and had them sign the plat, I gave them copies of their mortgages saying, you need to figure this out. Let me know, I can help you. I can provide information to your mortgage companies. Some of them took me up on it and we got through it. Some of them are still struggling a little bit. The unfortunate thing is a lot of times the banks really don't understand what this is, and they're trying to charge the people like over $800 to sign this document, and that's more than what they paid for the land, and so they're kind of not happy about that. Some of the landowners are about that. So with that, you have the 3 options. Let's postpone it until May. Let's cancel it entirely, give them their money back, except the earnest money, or have them redraw at this point and just take out the people that are not done yet. That one's a little harsh just because some of them are in the middle of it and banks are slow getting back to them. So I would hate to cut them out when they're in the process. So at this point, it's up to the board if we want to postpone it till May, give them some more time to try to get this done. If we record it without the mortgage company's consent, it could throw into question the validity of the plat. It is the mortgage or the mortgage holder, anyone who has basically a right that would ripen into fee ownership needs to sign the plat per statute. So that's why we're kind of a stickler on making sure that we have the consent to plats, or at least they've given me a copy and then it's coming in. But right now we've got about 5 that are struggling. So is the board interested in postponing, continuing our process?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there any downside to postponing other than the people who have their things done would like to complete it? But is there any other downside to postponing?
One person was not in favor of postponing because really they don't want to get another mortgage or a home improvement loan or anything like that, because if they do that now, between now and when it gets recorded, then I got to have that bank sign off. So that's kind of putting everybody on hold for that. So that was the one concern that I did get from somebody. So.
Thank you.
I think
Go ahead.
the unfortunate thing is, there's, I think, 14 in that plat or something like that, and you got 5 that haven't got their stuff done. And penalizing the ones who did the work and got it done and have paid their taxes and are ready to go is really hard. Separating those 5 out, there's a cost to it because it has to be, the surveyor has to go back out there, change the survey, change the plat, and plat just the ones that paid into in and the other ones remain out. And I'm fine with doing that as long as the cost of doing that gets bore by the 5 that are left. Shouldn't go on to the ones that have done their work. So I'd be in favor of going forward with that part and then come back and work with the other 5 and hopefully come to a resolution with some of them. And some of them, as you say, aren't interested in working on it. If they go to sell their property, the next person probably is interested in working on it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But that cost has to get added to those other, the ones who haven't gotten it done. Because we can't penalize the other 9.
We did not pay for that, so the landowners paid for the survey separately.
Right.
So I wasn't involved in any of that. So they would have to, I think, as a group, agree to that too. I don't know how that's all gonna
Well, they
shake
have to
out.
sort that out. They'll have
Yeah.
to sort that out then. But there is a cost. I just want the board aware, there is a cost. It's not just, we will approve these and not those 5. There's a cost that gets added besides that.
Yeah.
But I just don't like, a lot of them people, good people who have worked hard to get their stuff done, and then to penalize them because a neighbor doesn't get their work done is kind of harsh, I think.
And I've been working with some of the banks, and it is not easy. They have a standard form, you gotta get all this, you gotta give me all this money before I even look at you. And so I've sent them all the information that they wanted, not the money, but I sent them all the information, tried to explain to them, this is no different than you signing the plat. This is just separate because I'm not gonna send the plat all over the world to get bank signatures. So if I can actually get to a person, then it happens pretty quick. And some of them, again, this is all new to everybody. They don't understand that, and trying to work with a bank has not been fun in the last few years. So, I'm trying to advocate a little bit that let's work with them, but I understand that some of them already have fulfilled their obligations. So the reason I said May is because they would at least have their first half taxes paid. So that's,
So if we approved option 3, and then it goes back to them and they decide we aren't gonna spend any more money on survey, then it would go to either option 1 or option 2. Either cancel the whole thing or postpone till May.
if the landowners choose to, if the board chooses to do number 3 and the landowners choose not to do redraw the plat, then it's done. Because I can't record what's currently on there and
Right.
scratch off a couple of the lots. So I can scratch off names, I just can't scratch off lots. So if the landowners, and I'm looking at this also, I called the surveyor and I said, how much time do you need to redraw this? And he said, at least 2 weeks. So, giving somebody that option soon would at least get it done this year if you want it recorded this year. Or, like I say, our offer as a county was to sell that. We wanted to get it done sooner, knowing banks are difficult. We can go out to May, and at that point, by, March, if they're not done, then they can hire the surveyor, and then you're either in or you're out.
So Lisa, tell me again what you see as the downsides of number 3?
They'll have to get together and pay the surveyor again,
Right.
that part.
They'll,
And-
they'd have to figure that out.
Yep.
Yep.
And then the other part is, some of these people are probably pretty close to getting their stuff done. And if it comes in after it's redrawn, but before the end of the year, they're kind of out of it. So I've got one particular person who had 2 different loans on the property. They got one, they're working on the other one, and we've seen some activity going back and forth that it's gonna happen. But if it doesn't happen before he redraws the plat, then he's out.
And if it wasn't extended all the way to May, the people would have to pay those property taxes early is that correct?
Yeah, if we extend it out to May, they'd at least have the first half taxes paid.
Right.
They would just have to come up with the second half. So it's
Quite as-
painful, but not as painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I have a question. We could be at 13 already instead of 9 at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
At this point, it looks like one person just isn't interested in doing it, so whether it's May or whenever. And how about the 14th? I mean, there's one other person, right, that,
One other person that's got everything done and wants to finish this.
okay, is there just one person who doesn't want to?
Did not, basically got the same sort of letter from the bank, you need to give us $800 and do this and this and that, get another appraisal of the land, and I give them a copy of the appraisal we got, and they just don't have the time to go through and deal with the bank.
Uh-huh.
But I basically, whenever somebody would call me, I would prepare a packet for them with all that information, the board's decision to do this, the plat, how much they're getting, how much they have, what the purchase costs, everything, and the appraisal, and I send it to them to give to the bank. So far, that's been successful in a couple instances. Just again, getting to the right person at the bank is key.
Thank you.
So where would we be if eventually, I mean, if we postpone it until May, but we still have the one person that doesn't want to take part, then where are we?
Then we cut them out.
Then we're right back where we are today?
Well, you're cutting one out instead of 5. And like I say, I think these others have at least contacted me. They are working on it. They're trying to work through it, so they still have the interest for it. So, and maybe this other person will see that,
See the light?
maybe,
Talk to their neighbors.
yeah.
Right.
So, sounds
we-
like option 1.
Yeah, I'll move option 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept option 1 to postpone the plat recording until May 15th. Any other comments or discussion?
It's got, what day is May 15th? May 15th is when taxes are due. It doesn't fall on a weekend, does it? We should make sure it doesn't, we say 15th and the taxes really aren't due till the 16th. We should make sure we,
It's a Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday, okay, then 15th is okay. All right, just want to make sure we
Yeah.
didn't box ourselves in.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, appreciate it. It's a big project. We're still trying to work with the landowners to get that figured out. The next item is the Wanamingo landfill. And we've had discussions about this before, and Glenn is here, right here. And so, again, we started the PCA process to close the landfill. We've had a lot of discussions with zoning and with the attorney's office and with Public Works on, how could it continue to go on? If it were to continue to go on, what would it look like? Or to completely close it and say, this is it. So the first option would be, and we've got an example from Stearns County, and Goodhue County's done something similar with a previous site in Forest Mills, coming into a written agreement to say, okay, this is non-conforming, we're going to end it, but, here's what has to happen until we get there, and it's going to have an end date. So that's the first option. We would basically allow the current process of collecting, disposing the pass-through materials, and collecting demo debris in a dumpster for disposal. County would continue to partner with the operator as we have done. However, the county would be responsible for the disposal of the demo debris. That's a new cost because right now that was being buried. So we would have to have a separate dumpster for that. The operator would have to apply for the CUP within 60 days after the adoption of the ordinance or the end of operation, or end operations by May 1st, whichever comes first. After that deadline, the county will no longer partner with the operator. The operator will be responsible for the entire operation. Operator will be eligible to apply for the CUP for a transfer station if allowed in that zoning district and with the approval of the township, bringing them into compliance with the ordinance and the requirements. So that's option 1. That would mean that staff and the attorney's office would have to write up an agreement that basically says this or whatever you choose to say. The other option is let's continue with the complete closure of the site and operations until a CUP and other requirements can be obtained. So we do have a December planning commission. So we're hoping to put the transfer station ordinance on that planning commission for public hearing at that level, the planning commission level. So that would go to the county board in January, if it passes through. He would be able to apply after that, so he could apply in February. This is on the best case scenario route. So it's my understanding winter's a little bit slower. The hours are less than the winter currently, or in the past. So the board is either going to direct staff to put the time in to write an agreement that'll last through May, or not write an agreement and let this stop and let him go through and apply for the CUP process. And then if he gets it, then he's up and running again.
Yes.
I'm fine with option one, other than if we get rid of item B. I don't, if the demolition is closed, then it's closed. If they want to utilize the pass-through materials and get rid of them and pay for them, all for it. But if we can do a temporary agreement to get it by, but I don't see that the county's got to bear the cost of getting rid of demolition debris anymore. So.
But I think if we adjust the cost to that, it'll be paid by the consumer. Because part of that is now we're paying the current operator to bury that also, so there's going to be less cost in what we're currently doing with that demolition. It's because he has a dozer that he pushes and covers, and so this now will actually be hauled out. And I guess reviewing the costs on what that would cost to send it out will just have to be adjusted on the price. Because when a person comes in with their load, they've got their demo on there, they've got the mattress on there, they throw the TV in, and they have the metal, and they have, so it all is combined, and they have to pick through it all and put it in the certain bins and sort it out. So I think there's definitely advantage to keeping that demo there as long as it's being bypassed and shipped out. So,
As long as they're paying for it,
as long as they're paying for it.
which
Yep.
is not what B says.
So I think we're trying to understand, would there be new or additional costs to the county, or would that be borne by the people who are bringing the demolition to this site?
Currently, what we have as a suggestion is that the county would be paying the cost. Doesn't have to. A lot of times I'll write the reports for you guys to have a discussion on it, just like
All
we
right.
are now. So if we were to do something similar, the county would be paying the cost of that, because my understanding, we're paying to have the other stuff, dumpsters taken out, so that would be similar. But we don't have to do that. If the county is going to do that, we just passed our fee schedule. I don't know, Jess, if we have something in there that it would fall under currently. We didn't take out the landfill solid waste fees in this today because we didn't know where this is all going to shake out. If for whatever reason we don't do a landfill after this is all done, next year we'll take all those fees out.
One other thing, in the research that we've done here, it's, I know I've seen like the deposits, and there's like a to-be-billed amount, so I think our operator has actually, requested to get, because he needs to know what numbers are coming in, whether he truly can handle the transfer station privately versus what the county's been doing now. So I think this is a good opportunity to get these next few months and, can get a better handle on what actually has come in for a person if they can do the transfer station. So.
I understand Jason's point, and I understand what Todd's talking about. We're saying we're going to continue operations, and that's our basis for approving it as a non-conforming use, is that we've been doing it, we're going to continue it till this date. As soon as you start changing what the operation does, that it's now the private operator has to make up the cost, or the county can't be responsible for a cost, you're really getting into changing really what we're doing and have been doing. So to continue that till May is not going to amount to a lot of dollars. To find out what we need in that ordinance, we're going to need to gather information for that. I'm fine with A, I'm fine with B. The only part about C is it says we are going to have an ordinance. But we really don't know that we're going to have an ordinance, because it could be shot down and said, no, we're not going to. But the way that's written is there will be an ordinance by May that someone can apply for. That's the part I have more problem with. if we approve an ordinance, yes, then you can apply for conditional use. But it's got to be, it's an if we approve an ordinance. We don't have one.
Exactly, and that's why we worded it like that. So if we approve an ordinance, he's got 60 days after that to file for an application, or regardless, everything's done by May 1st. So if he comes in and we do approve an ordinance and he agrees that that's what he's going to do.
So what you're saying by saying after the adoption of the ordinance
Yep.
or of a ordinance?
Of the ordinance, the transfer station ordinance.
Okay.
Then the end date. So, really the question is, do
The
you
end,
want
of-
to
the end date's not non-negotiable. We're going to end it in May. That's,
whatever date you
Yep.
want. We're
Yep.
trying to, this is a short period of time, so
Yep.
the biggest question is, do you want staff to spend the time, go through the legal issues with it, to write an agreement to go through May? Or we're on the track to do the ordinance, do we get the ordinance done and have him apply for it?
of all the things that I get calls about, this is the one I've gotten the most calls about in the last 2 months. You need to keep something open. So I'm going to move option 1, and we go forward from there as written.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept option 1. One more question, and that is that with the ordinance, then anybody can apply for for a transfer station.
Yep, if it's approved in that zoning, they can apply for it. Whether they get it or not is up to the planning commission and the county board. If they find that it's not in the appropriate place or whatever, then, they can be denied. But we do have our draft ordinance out on the website, and we've passed it out to our planning commission, board of adjustment for review. And, we're trying to make it pretty tight. We're trying to make it that it's not a big, huge landfill. It's just kind of like the operation that's going on now in Wanamingo, and so far away from residential districts. And, we're using the 1,000-foot setback because that's similar to what we do with feedlots and other things. So it's pretty consistent with the other stuff we have. So even though anybody can apply for it, they still have to meet all those requirements and basically be ready to start a business.
Okay?
I have a question, one for Mr. O'Keefe, and I wondered if the B is a problem, if we basically charge people what the cost is. And then also, this might be for you, Lisa, if the county pays for it, can you give us a ballpark idea of what that amount of money would be? So 2 questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, as Lisa indicated, the board just approved the fee schedule. So that was following a public hearing. So at this point, I think the fee schedule is set for what the county will be charging for people depositing landfill, debris or disposal.
So we could charge whatever that county fee schedule says we would be charging.
Correct. So I think when the recommendation here is that it is a new cost, but it's a new cost to the county to haul that material away and dispose of it at a different location. So I think that's what the board needs to understand about that process.
So
At this point, we would not be able to charge, because the fee schedule has been approved, unless the board wants to amend the fee schedule. That kind of caps what we're charging folks coming into that facility.
So they would be paying something to drop off the demolition, but whether or not that cost actually covers transporting it and whatever the fee is where it's being brought to is the question.
Correct.
I see.
And that's what the county currently does with the bypass material. The county pays for the pickup of those containers and hauling them away, correct? Is that, looking at our engineer?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the current arrangement, and I think the recommendation is basically to continue with the current arrangement that's already in place, with some adjustments based on the timing here of having it closed down at a specific date with some of these additional provisions, but the fees are already set.
The current fee that we just set was $15 a yard, which is $300 for a 20-yard dumpster. So that's what you'd collect for a 20-yard dumpster, so.
For the demo part, I mean, not
demo
for the
part.
transport.
That's based on what we just passed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that will cover probably the cost of getting rid of it, but not totally the cost of transport.
Right,
So it's probably more the transportation we're going to be paying for,
yeah. And,
like it probably is with some of the other things there.
yes, and I'm just trying to understand roughly what that cost is.
And, you know, I think we've heard numbers less than 20 yards a day, some weeks less than 20 yards a
Of
week.
transporting it. Yeah.
Of demo that's brought in. So it's not huge amounts. And in our work, we could, and I think that's going to be part of this, is we won't take 30-yard loads of demo. We're going to take small 2, 3, 4, 5-yard loads of demo. So I think there will be a way to do that going forward, but, yeah.
I still don't know what it costs to move a dumpster.
I'm not sure I can tell you from cleanup, cleanup situations, but that was a little bit different. Jess, do you have some numbers on?
No,
what it
not
costs
off
to
the
move?
top of my head. I do not.
So-
Glenn may have some.
If someone from the audience, can you come up to the microphone, please, and just introduce yourself publicly?
Is it on? I don't know.
Yep.
Glenn Steberg, owner of the land, I guess, or the demo landfill. I believe I've been trying to figure out if a transfer station would work. And I talked to Zemke. He's been hauling the bypass loads. And it's anywhere from $275 to $300 that they get just to hook up to their dumpsters and take them and haul them away. And you guys pay for what's in the dumpster, but that is the money that gets taken in from the couches, from the mattresses, from people's shirts, clothes, somebody dies, whatever, they throw all this stuff in there. But those dumpsters, they're 30-yard dumpsters, and they're charging about, I'll just say $300 to get rid of them right now. The hauling.
Right.
That's not, what's in them, so.
And roughly how many dumpsters a day or a week or whatever are we talking about?
Well, I wish you came to visit that one time. I wish you would have been there Saturday, but it was crazy. There was actually 2 30-yard dumpsters that got filled, but and most of the people didn't know that we were even closing. But I ended up with, I think it was 12 mattresses, 14 couches, and 12 chairs. And I put them all between because there was other stuff coming in also. And then at the end of the day, I had to pick them up with a backhoe and put them in there because I didn't want to leave them sitting out. But right now, there are 2 dumpsters there from last Saturday that have not been picked up yet. But that's just how many people were there.
So
There was
it-
over 50-some people,
It
50 slips, and some of them came 3 times.
It varies, and that was a busier
That was a
time than
busy,
usual.
busy
So
day.
typically, is it 2 dumpsters a week that get shipped out of there, or?
Saturdays can possibly, if it's a busy Saturday in the fall, everybody's cleaning up, wants to
Yep.
put their car in their shed. I would say one on a Saturday, it could be 1 30-yard roll-off, but
Okay.
normally it's not that much.
Especially in the
Usually
winter.
a whole week, well, it's only Tuesdays and Saturdays
Mm-hmm.
now, but I'd say 1 dumpster. Now it's gonna slow down. It might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 1 dumpster.
All right.
And the demo, like you said, we're not taking in whole houses. We're just taking ma and pa with their little remodeling job, their bathrooms, their windows. So it ends up being 2, 3 yards in a pickup. And, but we wouldn't be taking whole houses in. No way. We don't do that no more. Yeah, and the demo, I think, even for last Saturday, the demo was only like 30 yards, which was high for a Saturday. Normally, that's 15 yards, maybe 20 yards on a Saturday.
To me, I just put in 300 a dumpster, and I know it's a little more, but if there were 20 dumpsters, that's $6,000, so it's not a huge amount of money.
How long would that 20 dumpsters be?
I just put in 20, because I'm thinking in the winter, there aren't that many. So I'm thinking in the winter months, we aren't going to have 2 a week. We're probably going to have,
One every 2 weeks.
yeah, so that
2 a
20
month.
might even be high, but the 300 was a little low. I was just doing simple math.
Right,
That's,
right. And we are collecting that 300, so.
Well, are we? Are we collecting money that, it's not really covering the
demo.
transportation, it's covering the cost of,
Covering, and that's something I'm trying to look into.
I see.
I haven't got a whole lot of info from what it costs for you guys to dump that load. I'm going to Public Works, I guess, and talk to Teresa and get some more answers. I was going to after this was done, and just see who paid for what or how much it cost.
I understand that. So but none of us really have the answer to the
Yeah.
question that we're asking. Yeah. But that 6,000 would be the high end because presumably some of it's covered by what people have spent.
I think one of the things we're leaving out of this is we already are paying for that. Whatever the bypass that's going through there,
Not the demo part, but the other part.
that's the only part we're
Right,
talking about, is the
right.
demo's gonna be different because we're gonna have to haul it away.
Right, right. I
Whatever
understand that.
happens with mattresses and tires and scrap metal, we're already doing that. We've been doing it for years. The only difference is now we're gonna take the demo, put it in a dumpster. And what I was saying was a 20-yard dumpster, you get $300 at $15 a yard. Is that gonna cover the cost? No, it's not gonna cover the cost of taking it off and getting rid of it. But it's a good chunk of it.
Well, I-
Until May, and then it's gonna be a totally different
Right.
game plan.
Right, I understand.
But also, Glenn is being paid now with his dozer to push that down in and cover it up, so that expense will be done. So, and I don't know how that balances out or how much that would be.
I would have to, most of the pickups, if they bring shingles,
Yeah.
they would throw it right into a dumpster. But
Yeah.
if it's one of these dump trailers with 4 yards on it, they're gonna back up and dump their shingles, then I would have to reload it with a backhoe into
Okay.
a dumpster. So there would be a little bit
there
of
are some
cost with a backhoe. But that could stay there for 2 days, just say shingles here and wood over here, and it gets loaded out separately, or got to figure out what to do with that. If it's cheaper to go with just wood, or if it's, just plain shingles, we've been trying to figure that out. That's my son there, and he's been helping me a lot. I think it's cheaper to go with just a load of shingles because they're clean. They just dump them, and then they go off to another spot. Where the wood, they can probably pick back up, and it goes to the incinerator maybe, or it gets, it could be used as fuel, probably. That's something we got to look into, where it's going to get dumped and where it goes. The hardest thing we found and tried to find out was to get rid of mattresses. There's some place, it's way down in Wisconsin, and they wanted mattresses, but you had to load them nice. You couldn't crunch them up with a backhoe. But right now, I pick them up with my backhoe and put them in the dumpster, and they've been taking them. So that's another thing. I'm going to try to follow the waste after I leave here today, go to Diamond Bluff, go to your facility, to see if they even take mattresses there at next to the tannery, and just see where they're getting rid of their stuff. I don't know. I don't know if any of you guys have researched that or found out where stuff goes. And I'm just trying to find out where stuff goes. So,
It's the Winnemingo.
huh?
It goes to Winnemingo.
Yeah, but then from there it goes. Okay.
There's a site in Dakota County, too. I think there's a site in Dakota County, because I just left mine at the edge of the driveway.
So
And they-
SPD.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Good
They
deal.
came and picked it up for $70.
Yeah.
Oh boy, one mattress.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another thing too. I mean, you guys. nothing has
It's been 8
raised.
years.
Prices have not been raised for like 8 or 10 years.
Yeah.
but you were saying the prices have already been established, or they're, so we can't raise them? As far as
Schedule.
hauling? Okay.
It can be adjusted. We'd have to open the public hearing again. It's just that it would be from, January to May. That's what those prices would be, because then after that, or sooner after that, if somebody comes in, then they're going to be setting the prices, and so our prices really go away.
Yeah, understood.
So,
Jess, did you have something?
Just a couple points of clarification. So as far as the dumpsters that would be used for the demolition material, as Glenn mentioned, your hookup fee for a roll-off truck to come pick up one of those is going to be $300. Then on top of that, you have a disposal fee and Glenn's time to have loaded that. So there will be some additional costs. We can't pencil it out exactly right here and right now, but the other point that I'd like to make here is that currently the demolition landfill is closed, and until an agreement is in place, there will not be room for operations. And I don't know necessarily how long it's going to take to put an agreement together, but there's still going to be a gap in time here that we'll have to take into consideration.
So I was thinking that we could probably come back to the board the last meeting in December, which would be the 19th. Yeah, well, at least for the agreement. So it's not very much time, but it's not going to happen the first meeting in December because we need to write it, negotiate it, and bring it back to the board.
Part of the original agreement included an operator's agreement, and the rates that Glenn gets paid, was getting paid, were listed in there, and what his obligations for working with the county were. So we'd essentially have to take a look at that operator's agreement again and open that up as well.
Any other comments, questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept option 1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Right, motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Finance Director's report.
Thank you, Commissioners. Today we have before us request from Nuvera. They are proposing to do another project in Falls Township, and looks like their project is going to be, they're requesting, basically, they have not specifically requested a dollar amount, but we have remaining in our. Can you check to make sure that mic's on?
We have remaining in our ARPA funds $378,988. And with that, I initially put forward that money go to them. However, I did, and that was for 138 passings again. And you can see from the map, the first map that we have before you, that you can see in the packet, it's kind of a nice map of Goodhue County. It came from DEED. They're the ones who administer the broadband grant funds. So you can see in the salmon color, that is all of the unserved areas. And then in the lavender color, you can see the underserved areas. And then in the green, you can see the served areas. So the proposed project by Nuvera at this time would really be hitting the unserved areas in the Cannon Falls Township pretty hard. And again, they're looking at doing 138 passings. So doing the math on that, it came out to about $2,700 per passing, which is actually a little bit lower than what we've traditionally given out. But then again, this is the end of the funds that we have earmarked from ARPA. Within that, we did get the question Susan brought up, and Scott had sent it over to me too. There was another request, I think, that we had where we were gonna write a letter of support for HBC, and I think they were looking at and I have not seen a map or anything, but they were looking at a total of 100 passings, and that was gonna be for Upper Wakuta Township. So I don't have any other additional information I can share on that, other than if we are interested in supporting the 138 passings and the 100 passings from HBC, obviously that's 238 passings. We do have some contingency dollars still available within the ARPA fund, if you will. So we could take some money from there, combine it, do the math, give everybody an equal amount per passing if we were interested in doing that. Otherwise, we can just stick with the $378,000 and split that up. The amount that we do have remaining within the ARPA contingency, and I was thinking just 100,000, but we do have $331,000 left. So if the board is open to that, otherwise can take a look at all other options on the table too. But what we were looking at from the Nuvera project does look like a very sensible project, I guess, and the number of passings that it would serve, and the fact that it's unserved area. So,
Brian, did you say that HBC has submitted something, or they're going to? Right, I know, but were you
Right,
just
so
talking about
what-
HBC?
What I
As well.
received, and it's from John, our IT director, who happens to be out, but it's dated November 7th. And so they were looking for a letter of support from the county, I guess, so they can apply for grants. And Nuvera is going to apply for a grant too. Now, there's no dollar amount or anything listed other than the fact that they were looking at, they said over 100. I don't know how over that really is, so I just plugged in 100. But there's no dollar amount, no map, or no application to go with that at this time.
Oh,
But if
all
we
right.
wanted to plan for that, I guess, and I received this after I wrote the memo and it went out, but if we wanted to plan for that, that's why I was thinking we could combine some of the contingency money with that. Otherwise, we can just split up. Otherwise, we can just stick with Nuvera. It's up to you. So one thought I had was if we took $100,000 from the contingency ARPA, added it to the $378,000 or $379,000, divided it all out, basically they would get $2,000 per passing. So Nuvera would get $277,000, HPC would get $201,000 approximately, if we wanted to plan that. And then we would, for all intents and purposes at this time, be done accepting grant applications for broadband. Or we should have a further discussion at a later time about if we want to continue funding it some other way.
Just from the map they sent us, that actually covers a little bit of Leon Township, Cannon Falls Township, some Vesa Township, and actually stretches into Bell Creek Township. It's really hitting 4 townships.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
And I didn't review the HBC thing today, but what happens is the part of Wakuta that's down by the lake has been covered for a number of years. But the Sevastopol area has no high-speed internet, and then the area along the highway has no high-speed internet. So that's where that was going to cover, and it's actually fairly densely populated. And I guess my view is since we know that this application is in the works, it makes sense to divide that out equally. And then I think another question is probably there's going to be more broadband applications coming forward. And are we going to spend all this money and then have nothing left for the new ones, or are we going to do something different? But the HBC one is in the works. It's happening, as far as I can tell.
Well, and I wasn't trying to stretch this as thin, but doing the math
Yeah.
on per passing, I mean, this would get us down to about $2,000, which is about as low as we've provided. Otherwise, sometimes these projects, if they don't get a decent amount, then it's not worth anything. So we
Right.
all knew sooner or later the money would run out. So we're, but both of them, I think, are applying for that state grant
Yes.
that's available right now and stuff by the sounds of it too. And again, do we expend what we have and then have a discussion at a later time on if we want to put money back into it, and if so, how?
Do we know, are they applying for the same state grant? Because there was some where it's for more densely populated, and then there's some that they were specific to very spread out.
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to HPC exactly, and I didn't get a lot of details out of Nuvera. I did ask them if they were applying for the grant, and there was one that's due, they had to do the intent in October, apply in November, and I think they were going to, the state was gonna hand out the recipients of that in December, from what I've seen from my homework, so I assume that's the one at least Nuvera is going for.
Because the ones that go into more densely populated areas, it always is less per passing.
Right.
And it's always, they just have a lot less infrastructure. This one's all rural. And it's where it's the hardest to get infrastructure
And
in
Nuvera said
place.
this would be about a $2.5 million project, so our contribution, and I have 378 plugged in, and that's only 15%, and if we wanna do that, we can do that, otherwise, if we even went down further to, like I said, the 277, obviously, that's gonna be far less than the 15%, now you're probably looking at closer to 10%.
Scott, can you come up with the HBC thing they sent us? I just can't do that on the spot. I think they sent a letter and then asked for our support, and I think they described what grant they were applying for in that letter.
Yeah, I can look that up. I do know that, I don't know if it's the exact grant, but it's in the same grant cycle. There was two options in there, and
Right.
I don't know which
And
one of the two.
It's not as, the area of Wakuta I live in is much more densely populated than the area up on top of Sevastopol. They have quite a bit, I mean, it's fairly large lots and that kind
Right,
of thing.
right. I think you're probably best off going along the lines of what Brian's suggesting, go X dollars per passing here.
Yeah.
Use these dollars plus the contingency, and, you know, we do have a budget workshop coming up here in a
Afternoon,
couple hours, and you probably should discuss it, because this isn't the last time the broadband grants are gonna happen.
And I believe it does help them during the grant application process through the state if there is local dollars contributed to it as
Yeah.
well.
They get more points if there's local contribution, whether it's from townships or the county.
I think that sounds reasonable to give the same amount per passing to the two grant applicants.
I guess I would be real cautious on giving any more of the contingency. Like you say, let's see what else is going to be coming up. Did Midco apply for anything? Have you ever seen anything from Midco?
I have not seen anything.
I don't know. I mean,
these have done
they're
that.
digging right along Highway 57. They got the crawler there now, and they're putting in high speed south of Wanamingo. So I'm not sure they didn't do any of our granting.
And I know some of these are looking for a quick answer so they can get this submitted to, so.
Right.
We did send out to everybody that we know that provides internet in the area, and the only two that responded were HBC and Nuvera.
Okay.
All right.
So it sort of seems like there's two questions. How do we divide it out, and are we going to just use the current ARPA funds, or are we going to use the contingency fund on top of that? I think those are the two questions for right now. Does that sound correct?
Correct.
And the contingency one you want decided on a day as well?
Yeah, that would be nice to be able to know, that way we know how much to give Nuvera for sure as well. But then we would just apply the same thing to HPC,
How many dollars are in the ARPA contingency fund?
331,000. So even if we use the 100, obviously we still have 231,000 left.
Okay, I understand.
But
All right, well, I'm a big supporter of broadband. I think that we've got nowhere to go in the future if people do not have the ability to get into the internet with everyone else. So I would support using some of our contingency money to add to it.
Are you saying we do 378 to Nuvera, or what are you saying?
so,
Well, apparently I'm not saying anything.
well, what I can help you
All right.
phrase would be,
All right.
if we used 100,000 of contingency plus the 379 of ARPA, that brings the total amount to $478,988. And if we do the same amount per passing, 138 passings for Nuvera, 100 for HPC, then the motion would be for $277,733 for Nuvera. And then the total amount for HPC would be $201,233. $255. Again, that would equal the $478,988. So if
And that
you-
would be for the same amount of money per passing, and what does that come to? Is that 2,000?
$12.55.
I'm sorry, say it again.
$2,012.55.
2012 per passing.
Yes.
But we only have one in front of us today, is Nuvera. We don't have we don't have a request from HBC yet.
Well, they had a letter, they had us apparently back in November, and I must have forgot or didn't see it or whatever the case is, but apparently they did ask the county to write a letter of support, so they are thinking of something, and they,
But they haven't asked for an amount.
I think, if I'm remembering the letter correctly, which I read a month ago, they said they were going to be asking.
so I'm just planning ahead, assuming
Yeah,
that they're
so
gonna come and.
I believe that's what they said, and I don't know if they had a specific number of passings, because again, it's a month ago that I read this letter, so.
The only thing I'm saying is it'd be unfortunate if we said, we might have this other one, so now we're not gonna do the 378, which obviously Nuvera's done the homework and said that's what they would need for a match.
Right.
I think-
One's a for sure, the other's a maybe. We
Well, I
don't
think-
know what's gonna happen.
I think Brian said he just put what was left in there. I don't know that Nuvera asked for that number. And I also believe Nuvera's worked with the county before on grants, so they understood the process better than HBC, because I think when HBC...
Yes, they have done a project in Vesa Township and Welch.
Right,
Village.
and I don't think HBC has, so I think they were less familiar with the process with the county. So I would move that we do the $2,012 per passing, and I would guess they'd be more than happy to take more money from us later if it was available, and that we hold back on the remaining money until we hear from HBC.
Understood?
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move forward with supporting $2,012 per passing for the Nuvera project and
Using $100,000 of contingency dollars.
using $100,000 of the contingency money. Anyone else have anything to say?
So you're gonna put the contingency money in the fund.
In the-
We're not gonna spend it this time because we already
Because we
got
don't
the
need to, because they
277.
haven't formally come
So we're
forward. Yes.
committing to use $100,000 of contingency money.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Do we need to make that decision today?
No, they'll come forward as we are doing this, and we'll make another proposal, but I'll remind you what our discussion was.
Well, I'm believing that somebody in the future is going to come forward, and I would like to see that contingency money used for broadband.
I'm fine with that.
So,
Okay.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Todd, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Human Resource Managers, that one we're postponing. Yep.
You'll have it at your
Yes.
HHS board meeting.
All right, Public Work Directors report.
Good morning, Board. Today, I have an item for the Board to consider, a cooperative construction agreement between MnDOT and Goodhue County for a roundabout to be constructed at the intersection of Trunk Highway 58 and County Road 9 in Goodhue. I'll apologize quickly here. The agreement itself, I unfortunately did not get attached, but it has been included as a handout for each of you to look at. Back this last February, when we had our 5-year construction program approved by the board, this project was included. One note of interest is that the costs at that time were planned to be borne out of funding available to us for our construction program. In the time that's elapsed, MnDOT and Goodhue County worked on an HSIP grant that provided 90% of the funding for our share of eligible expenses. In the agreement itself, towards the back, there's a Schedule I that lays out the estimated costs for Goodhue County and demonstrates how much of that is going to be covered by federal dollars. What is anticipated here, total cost is just under $1.1 million, with $910,000 of that being covered by that federal HSIP grant, which leaves $182,000 and change for Goodhue County's share, which is substantially less than what we had originally anticipated, which is a good thing. We can put those remaining dollars then back into our program for other projects. So right now, the county will be responsible for 100% of the construction costs on County State Aid Highway 9, plus a share of construction administration costs of 8%, which is a standard number when working with these MnDOT agreements. Total estimated cost, as I mentioned, just under 1.1 million. Administration costs were just under 81,000. So today I'm looking to have the board authorize the chair and the administrator to sign the cooperative agreement to keep this project moving. Currently, the project is out for bid. MnDOT is working towards 2024 construction on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Jess?
Move approval.
All right, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the county to sign the cooperative construction agreement for a roundabout at Highway 58 and Highway 9. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jess. For your information, we have several reports we had an opportunity to look at. Project status report, new or old business. I'll bring up just the one about if you had anything to bring in for the basket for the Association of Minnesota Counties. Please do so. County Board Committee reports. I just have one from yesterday. The Housing Committee met, and there were two obviously, workforce housing is just a huge issue all the way around, but certainly here as well. People need employees, but employees have no places to live. Two projects in Red Wing got pulled, canceled. One was a large one put together by Three Rivers, and another one was by the Patel Group. That was Calvary Church. That didn't pass it wasn't rezoned, so that one got pulled. So that's too bad from the standpoint of the Red Wing area. There is still more going on in Cannon Falls. Cannon Falls seems to be much more open to rezoning and building workforce housing. The one other thing I have is that over the weekend, I got calls from a few people regarding taxes. One of them was a veteran, and I just wanted to say that per the veteran, and I quote, "Those two boys at Veteran Services really know what they're doing," unquote. So another nice compliment for Veteran Service Office. Any other committee reports? All right, review and approve county claims.
So moved.
Motion to pay the bills and motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned till 10:30.